Senior Runner here, and as we get towards the end of winter, it's still quite cold out there. It's the most dangerous time of the year for runners, especially senior runners. Do you know nearly 8% of you will have an injury or two this year alone? Quite an amazing fact. Let's face it, there's lots of aspects to be looked at, especially things like how are we dressing? Do we dress warm enough? Do we dress too warm? The icy roads, the cold winds, the snow, the rain, and most of all, how hard or how slippy or how icy those roads, paths, and even those usual boggy areas and grasslands are. Very important that. Remember, ice causes a lot of changes in our environmental surroundings. So what are our main challenges apart from hypothermia from the sheer freezing cold that we get, especially in England? We've also got the fact that when you're running on hard ground, that stress and the pounding causes a lot more problems with your body. The cold can give you the cold or flu, and those symptoms and the cold can last an awful lot longer if you're older. If you're a senior runner like me, those things are certainly things that you need to consider. But isn't it the most common thing I get told is motivation? It's cold, it's wet, it's snowing, it's windy. Do I really want to get out there? It's the motivational thing that's really hits us when we're thinking about winter, and predominantly now coming out of winter. It's the big question that we've got to answer and the big problem that we've got to challenge us. So what do we suggest? Don't overdress. I must emphasize this. Overdressing and getting too warm is a definite no-no. You can cause things such as seizures because you're losing lots of water, you're sweating too much, and if your body dehydrates, you could be giving yourself even more medical issues than you can even imagine. Don't overdress, you don't want to overheat. However, you also don't want to freeze your butt off out there. So you do need to be covered up. Make things removable. Now, I see people running with woolen hats. Why not? As long as you can take them off when you start feeling a little bit lightheaded because your head's getting too warm with the sweat getting into the hat and heating your head up, then that's fine. Gloves are the same. You can use gloves. Just remember, you need to be able to take these off and carry them when you're running. So have something to put them in or hook them off of. Absolutely essential. Do make sure you've got a good pair of shoes. That tread needs to be absolutely perfect for those conditions. If you're running on ice, make sure that the tread on the bottom of the shoe is really good. Also, your route. You may have to change your route. You may have to not use that bit of grassland. If grass is getting really hard, then the fact that it's not even, it's very uneven, could cause your foot to slip, bend, twist. You could be giving yourself ankle injuries, leg injuries, and certainly the pounding on hard, solid ice when it's uneven is not very good for the feet, for the ankles, and for the knees. So do try and keep off them if it's too uneven and it's rock hard. Also, if you go down on something like that, you're going to cut yourself quite badly and you're going to get dirt in the cuts. It's not a good idea. So you may have to change your route. If you've got flooding, if you've got ice on a part of the road, try and make sure that you're not running over it, because quite often you'll not be thinking about the ice and you go sliding on your ass, and again you're going to cause yourself injury. So make sure the dress code is okay, make sure you've got the appropriate hydration with you, and make sure your path, your route is essentially changed depending on what you're going to find on that route. For instance, I got over the motivational thing and thought, yes, I've got to go. Hyped myself up while I was inside, nice and warm, put all my gear on, put my gloves on, put my hat on, and went out for a run. It's winter, it's cold, it's blowing a gale. Fortunately, it wasn't raining, but it was clear sky, so it was absolutely freezing cold. Now I'm running along and I'm thinking, this is really good, but unfortunately, I started to feel very, very hot. My hands are feeling clammy and sticky, and my head's starting to ache a little bit. And because I do suffer from seizures, I have to make sure that I've got my drink with me and I can keep on hydrating. But I knew that the hat was causing me an issue. So I took my hat off, I took my gloves off, and I put them in my belt. Remember, I had to remember when I start off, I'm going to be cold out there, and it's not going to be until I warm up that I will need to take them off. So I started to warm up and started to realise, yeah, this is about the right time to take them off. And I made sure I'd got something, somewhere to put them, and I tested it out. Yeah, is it easy to run and just stick them in the bum bag? Yes, it is, and it worked brilliantly. So do plan things out before you go. So what have we learned? We've learned we've got to dress properly. Try and dress so that you can keep a little bit of that warmth in while you're starting. But do remember, when you start to run, that wind against the sweat will make you cool down a hell of a lot quicker. So you may need something a bit thicker so that wind doesn't immediately cool down the sweat that's close to your body or in direct contact to your body. So you may need something thicker because of the sheer cold of the wind. But you'll also be in need to perhaps take off some of that should you find that you're now getting a little bit too hot. There's a little bit of a juggling act, I suppose, a little bit of a weighing scale moment. Try a few things out. Always try things out. I always tell you to do this. Try a few things out. Okay, that was too thick. Let's take a layer off. Let's go out again in a couple of days and see whether that's okay for us. And when you've got that perfect thickness of clothing for you for winter, you can stick to that then. And remember, you will need at some point to take off some of that. Make sure you've got somewhere to put it, you've planned it, and you've looked at it properly. Make sure your route is absolutely essential to what you're doing and you're not going over ice. Try and miss out any very hard uneven surfaces such as grassland, because that could be quite dangerous to the ankles. Make sure you're looking after your knees, looking after your ankles. In winter, it's absolutely essential. And mentally, try and get that motivation going while you're in the house, while you're nice and warm. Think of the benefits. Think of how long it's been since your last run. Can I do it? And if you can't, lower the distance by all means, but just try and get out there, even if it's only for half a mile. It's all good for the body. So all these things, all added together, mean that you can run in winter, and you can run at this point in winter when we're going to try, hopefully, to increase our distances and get back on the road a little bit more with a little bit more enthusiasm, because it's slightly sunnier, slightly warmer. We're starting to get into spring, guys and girls. Make sure we're ready for it. And one last thing, I always try these things for you and I always report them back. I've had issues like this. I've had problems with motivation. Have you had problems with motivation? Have you tried some of these things? Have you got it wrong? That's the most important thing. If you've got it wrong, can you put it in the comments? People enjoy learning from your experiences, and I'm sure that you can learn from other people if you got it right. And hey, it worked brilliantly for me, this idea of doing XYZ. Please comment down below. I'd like to know, and some of my subscribers will probably like to know as well. Please do also like and subscribe and give me a share. It always helps the channel if you can give me a like and a subscribe and a share. And it's Senior Runner here for another video.